Hey, Steve Magnante here at High-Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts with a 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1. Now you wonder what a Mach 1 is. Well, basically it's a reference to the critical Mach number where you break the speed of sound in an aircraft. Now the Mustang was not going to break the speed of sound, which is like 610 miles per hour in the air, depending on the altitude. But anyway, Mach 1 was a sexy name. Now here's the thing, the Mach 1 is the car that pretty much put the nail in the coffin of the Ford Mustang Shelby GT 350 and 500 legacy. Now only 2,630 Shelby Mustangs were built in 1969 versus 72,458 Mach 1s in 1969, the debut for the Mach 1. So the Mach 1 was actually less expensive by about 25 to 30% than a Shelby GT 350 or GT 500 Mustang. But these had about the same eyeball appeal, similar mechanicals in many ways, but with that said, these were cheaper. Speaking of cheaper, the base price on a Mach 1 sports roof was $3,122, which was $497 more than a basic Mustang sports roof, which could have had a 6-cylinder. So again, for that $3,122, you saved about 40% versus a GT 500 fastback, especially a convertible. Big money on those. But speaking of convertibles, the Mach 1 was only available as the sports roof body. There was no coupes, there were no convertibles in Mach 1 land in 1969 or 70 or 71 for that matter. So these were all about two-door coupe design with the fastback body. Now the things you got standard on the Mach 1, regardless of engine, were heavy-duty suspension, the blackout on the hood and the cowl right here, and the scoop on the top of the hood, which is non-functional, but certainly gives a lot of the muscle car vibes that you want to have in your pony car. So under the hood of this one, we'll find out what we have in just a second. Pop it and take a look. Another detail specific to the Mach 1, in addition to the blacked out hood, are the hood pins, which could be deleted, but I understand that everybody got the hood pins. And they actually were old style hood pins with lanyards and pins, whereas 1970 Ford reverted to a turnbuckle type thing that didn't have these. So 1969, one-year deal for the Mach 1 with the hood pins that are exposed, like a NASCAR race car. So under that hood, what have we got? Which engine? It's going to be a V8 for sure, because you could not get a 6. Okay, if you know your Ford small blocks, you'll know that's not a Cleveland, that is a Windsor. Basically a smaller cylinder head, smaller valves, but still a potent engine. The backbone of the 5-liter Mustang revolution of the 1980s and early 90s. The 351 Windsor and Cleveland are great engines, but again, we'll find the VIN in a moment and see which engine came in this car originally. But again, the aftermarket aluminum intake is a good sign, you know, and a small Edelbrock, oh, it's a small Holley 4-barrel. That's nice, a small carburetor, nothing wrong with that. Dressed up aluminum valve covers and the Cobra type aluminum air cleaner lid. All of these things add a lot of eyeball appeal, not a lot of extra horsepower, but with that said, they look fantastic on cruise night and to intimidate people in the staging lanes at the drag strip. It looks like a race motor. Of course, the headers are a nice touch. The factory manifolds would have been more restrictive. The headers probably free up, 15, 20 horsepower versus the iron logs this would have come with from the factory. I like to see the manual disc brakes up front, no power booster there, which is fine. Manual steering, so you'll burn calories and rubber when you drive this Mustang. And again, is it really a Mach 1? Well, the VINs on these cars in 69 don't tell the tale. 1970, there would be a specific body code for a Mach 1. But again, this is definitely a sports roof. We see the 02 in the prefix, or the second 2 spots of the VIN. And again, that's correct for a fastback or a sports roof Mustang. So which engine did it have? I would take a walk over to the VIN, look in the 5th spot, and here we see, okay, the letter H, and that is the 351 Cleveland. F would have been the 351 Windsor. So this is basically a 351 Cleveland car, which has a 350 or some sort of a Windsor small block. Nothing wrong with that. The car doesn't know the difference. We do, but it's still a cool, fun-looking car. And let's take a look inside and see which transmission we're looking at. While Mustangs could be had with bench seats at various points in the Mustang's history, it was very uncommon, so the Mach 1s would have bucket seats up front, as we see them here. And these are high-back bucket seats, which are actually mandated by the federal government with any car built after January of 1969. And here we have them, the high-back buckets right there on display. What I don't see inside this one is the wood grain instrument panel overlay, and that would have been something standard on the Mach 1. So again, this is most likely an 02 Mustang sports roof, 351 2 or 4 barrel, not sure. Nothing wrong with either of those things. With a Windsor transplant at some point. The automatic transmission is nice to see. You could also get a 4-speed in a Mach 1 or a Mustang if you wanted. Even 3-speed manuals in standard Mach 1s, but again, this is the 3-speed, probably a C4 or maybe a Ford automatic, nothing wrong with that. It's easier to drive on a day-to-day basis and in heavy traffic. And of course, like all Mustangs pretty much, you're looking at a very small, narrow back seat. Basically, the center is a suggestion. The right and left sides have bolsters, but in the middle, you had to be, pretty durable to sit on that thing for any period of time. So you might call this a 4-seat Mustang. And one thing that's interesting too is 1969 was the first year for the quarter panel mounted faux air vents on both sides. Now, the only Mustang that did not get those, of course, would have been convertibles and hardtops, or the Boss 302 fastback. In 1969, the Boss 302 did not have these vents in the tops of the quarter panels. Kind of weird. For whatever reasons, Ford stylists predicted the 1970s smooth quarter panel for the 1969, but only on the Boss 302. Whereas the Mach 1 would have these fake vents. They don't do anything, but they look great. They help to sell cars. At the back, things that are also helpful in selling cars, the Mach 1 also has the blacked out panel at the rear, Dutchman panel, and on the top of the deck, and at the rear, the blacked out panel here, which gives it a sinister vibe. And of course, here is Ford's infamous, Go wing. In Chryslerland, I guess we call this the spoiler, trunk spoiler. And aerodynamic, yes, at Mach 1, it would probably come off the car, but probably at about 100 miles an hour, it probably creates a little bit of downforce, and that's what these things actually are meant to do. And let's have a look inside the trunk and see. Oh, by the way, this here is a new thing for Mustang, the flip top. The filler caps right here. Older Mustangs had a variety of different techniques, screw-on filters with cables or fillers. But by 1969, Ford said, let's get rid of the stealable screw-on caps and just make something integral. It has sort of a Le Mans pit stop kind of a vibe to it. Like that, right in the middle. The beauty of a centrally located fuel filler is that you don't have to predict or guess or remember which side of the fuel fill it's on, which side of the car the fuel filler is on. By here in the middle, you pull up to the pump, you just can reach with the hose, you're all good. And speaking of that gas filler, the gas tank is in a surprising location. The trunk floor and the top of the gas tank are the same thing. That's the case with Mustangs built between 64.5 all the way up to 73. And I guess Ford figured, hey, we can make one part do 2 jobs, why not? So under this trunk mat right here is the top of the gas tank. And some people would say if you ever go to the parts store or go to the junkyard and come home with a battery that's fully charged and you don't bolt it down or put it someplace, if you take a turn or do a donut, that battery can wind up upside down, shorting out against the top of the gas tank, and you get yourself a little bonfire on your hands. Not that happen often, but it probably could. But anyway, with that said, the trunk mat would insulate those terminals from sparking and making a fire. But with that said, don't travel with a battery in your trunk unless it's bolted down in a Boss 429. You know what I'm talking about, Boss 429 owners. But anyway, inside the trunk of this is pretty tidy. The deck lid is nice and presented with the factory blue paint, which matches the rest of the car. And of course, the paint on this car is Grabber Blue, which is a Ford icon of the 60s and early 70s. Great color. And we see it here on the underside of the deck lid and inside the trunk area, which is the correct presentation for a restoration. And this is a nice, I would say it's a resto mod. It's got the headers, some larger wheels and tires than stock, but otherwise looks the part of a factory stock Mustang Mach 1. Pretty cool. An interesting modern touch is the staggered rolling stock. All the wheels are 18-inch diameters, but the rear tires are 265s, the fronts are 245s, so it has a wide and wider stance, which is perfect with the fastback roofline of the Mustang. It really brings it around, gives it a tough masculine look, if you will. Close that door. And check out the body side stripe, which was new for 1969 on the Mach 1 standard issue, and that is 3M reflective tape. And in fact, at the night, or in the middle of the night, or at night, if a car comes up to this at a stoplight with the headlights on, that glows white. It's not black, it's white. Basically, it reflects the headlights, and it's a safety feature that a lot of people applauded back in the day. But again, you have to love the branding, the Mach 1 with the italicized MACH and the number Mach 1. And if you ever wondered, there was never a Mach 2 or a Mach 3 or a Mach 4. Ford might have done a sort of a hierarchy system, but the Mach 1 was as high as it got. And that's okay. Mach 1 is a great car, a legend. And of course, Mach 1 is back, has come back with the Shaker Mustangs in, 2004, 2005, the final go for the Fox 4 platform. And I think Mach 1 is likely to come back, if it's not already back, with the modern era Mustang. But here's where it all started, right here, 1969. To learn more about this car, go to the High Octane Classics website and check out the photo gallery.